Good afternoon, otherworldlies. This is Juliana Angel, your dark masked diva. How's everyone doing today? All right, everybody. So, otherworldlies, we all have needs. We all have things that we need in our lives, right? So, we all have our demands. We all have our needs. We all have things that we need to get done around here. And, when we have certain requirements, it is imperative that we are specific, all right? Not, when we tell people we need this done, we need this, we need that. We need to be very specific. What is okay, what is not okay, what we need done, and we need it done by a specific time, okay? We can't just say, okay, when we're looking for a relationship, we need a guy to be this, that, and the other. Sometimes we need to tell him this is okay, this is not okay. All right, we specifically need to tell him don't do this and do this. And if he does a specific thing, you got to just tell him this particular thing is not okay. All right, and create a consequence if he does or does not do a certain thing. If you need your man to do a certain thing, say, I need you to do this by this specific time and this specific date. If you need him to propose by a certain date, say, if you don't want to put a ring on my finger by this specific date, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna dip. I really need to just kind of move on with my life if you're not interested in taking this to the next level. And you're like, but Angel, that is not romantic. I want it to be his idea. Well, here's the deal. Most men don't want to settle down. Most men would like to keep as many women as possible in their lives. They'd like to keep all their exes in their lives. They'd like to do all these things. Okay, well, they'd like to do that. All right. They like to get away with that as long as they possibly can. We need to put our foot down and say, no, it needs to be me and only me. And if that's not the case, I need to be moving along with my life. Okay. So you need to say, as you notice, I have a ring on my finger, right? All right. So you need to be able to tell them, hey, if I'm not the one for you, you need to decide by a certain date, or else I'm going to just move along, because I need to just kind of get on with my life. So if your guy is kind of not acting like he's about it or whatever, you need to say, hey, if I'm not the one for you, you have a few months to decide, or I'm just going to just move on. So maybe you need to tell him that, and he's going to be like, oh, wow, and he's going to think about it for a minute, and he's going to go, well, she's, wow, well, maybe I really should make my mind up. Don't be like in a few months. Don't be, like pressuring him to come up with a ring in a few months. But I'm going to tell you honestly, a man knows within 6 months if you're the one or you're not. You're like 6 months, he really knows if you're wifey? Yeah. In 6 months' time, he knows if you're wifey. All right, not if you're like 19 years old or something like that, but if your man's in his late 20s or whatever, yeah, he knows within 6 months if you're wifey or not. Okay, and I'm just keeping it real. So if he's saying, I'm not the marrying type or whatever, just get rid of that relationship, honestly. Okay, because a man will say he's not the marrying type and live with you for 12 years or whatever, so you guys break up, he's married to someone else, less than a year later. Or even a few months later. I'm not even joking, that happens all the time. I know people that's happened to. Okay, I know people that just fall in love at first sight. That really does happen. So don't let people lie to you. I've met a lot of people who are like that. I've met a lot of people who, I met this lady, and she lived with this guy for almost 2 decades, and he just said, she wanted to marry him and everything like that, and he goes, no, I want to marry a woman from my own culture. And she says, I've lived with you for 2 decades. And he said, no, I want to marry a woman from my own culture. And he was from a foreign country, and, she was fine to live with, but he wanted to marry a woman from his own culture, and she was just completely devastated. And I'm like, wow, you guys just never had to talk about this or anything like that. And I don't know if it's just his family doesn't want him to marry a woman outside of his culture, or what the deal was, or he just didn't want to be with her or whatever. But she just, like, every time I saw her, from like a year later, she was still crying about it. Well, I don't blame her for still crying about it. I would never make fun of somebody for that. I mean, but she was still crying about it. She gave this man years and years of her life. But that's, but the man, he's probably married to a woman from his culture now. That's what his family expected him to do, So, but he lived with this woman for years, and she was still crying about it. Yeah, I mean, come on. So sometimes you just have to tell the guy you're with, hey, I put in like a year and a half with you and 2 years. Yeah, you should know by now. Like women, we have like our eggs have a shelf life. If we want to have kids, we have these biological clocks, and we kind of just, we age and stuff like that. So like, stop wasting our time. Like, if we want to get married, because a lot of us don't want to be baby mamas. We want to get married and then have kids. Okay, we don't want our kids to be illegitimate. I mean, if you think that's okay, there's something wrong with you. We want our kids to, we want to have a husband, and we want our kids to be legitimate. Okay, we want to be married and then have kids. Okay, we're not trying to just have a baby and trap you and get child support out of you. No, we want to get married. Come on, we want to be a wife. So, hello, so don't, a lot of times, you guys, if you don't, specify that, hey, I'm not just playing around here. I really, I want the ring. Okay. Sometimes you got to just come out and spell it out. All right. So sometimes that's what you need to do, because a guy will just be like, do, and he'll do whatever. And sometimes you got to tell him, hey, do you have any ex-girlfriends in your life? Do you have any ex-friends with benefits? You need to, get rid of those bitches. You know what I mean? Get rid of them. And sometimes he'll keep them around and, think because they're chill, or they're, that he would never sleep with them again, or because they're nice people, or they cut his hair, it's okay to keep them around. No, it's not okay to keep them around. It's not okay. And sometimes, those chicks will try to, ask him for money and do all these things. That will keep him from taking care of you and upgrading you. They are in his life, and they are actually keeping him from taking care of you, because he feels sorry for them. He feels sorry for them because he used them for sex. And he thinks they're nice people. They aren't nice people. They're whores. They're people that gave him cookie, and they ask him for $5 or $10 every once in a while, and they make up some scam story and ask him for money. Well, he secretly feels guilty for using them for sex, but they're in his life, and they're keeping him from upgrading you. They're actually in your way, even if he doesn't want to sleep with them again. They are still in your way, and he is betraying you by keeping them in his life. He's disrespecting you by staying friends with them. So you need to put your foot down and go, you know what, that chick makes me really uncomfortable. Stop being friends with her. He needs to really get rid of them. So the fact that he's keeping them around, that's actually keeping him from taking care of you. They're actually in the way. They will try to hit him up and bother him when he's taking you on a date. And that's when you know something happened between the two of them. That's when it becomes extremely obvious, and you tell him, you need to cut her off. You need to stop being friends with her. Because that's keeping him from upgrading you. That's keeping him from moving you into a better apartment. And then that's when you need to tell him, you need to move me into a better apartment by this date. Okay, I don't want to hear any more promises. I don't want to hear, I'm working towards a future, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, it needs to happen by this date. And we need to do this by this date. It needs to be a specific date. Sometimes you just need to spell it out for a man. You need to say, this needs to happen by this date, because I don't want to hear any more promises. Oh, I'll be faithful to you. Oh, well, but you'll keep those women in your life. That's keeping you from doing right by me.
keeping those people in your life is keeping you from doing right by me, okay? Whether you think so or not. All right, because that is a betrayal to our relationship. So this needs to happen by this date. Okay, so you need to keep the people in your life honest. I'm not just talking about your man. I'm talking everybody. Like, I need this and I need this done by a certain date. Okay, you might need to deal with everybody in your life like this. Like, if this doesn't happen by this date, I'm going to come down there and make sure it does. All right, sometimes you just need to be confrontational. Like, I need this done by this time, and if this doesn't happen, I am going to come down there. Okay, and sometimes just drop in on people when they're not doing right by you. Like they will know. They're like, you know what, I think if I don't do this by this particular time, Juliana is going to make an appearance. And, I know she's going to do that. And even if she doesn't threaten me, I know she's going to do it anyway. Just be known as that person who's going to do that. But give people timelines and dates. This needs to happen by this particular time, or else the person will not do right by you. Because if you're too vague, all they will give you is a promise, and they will think they can get away with doing things that are not right, because they just don't. They think, oh well, I can do this and it's okay. I can do that. I can take my time and do this, because they just don't line their priorities up right. They need to make you the number one priority, and they need you to actually say, no, this needs to happen by this date, and or else I'm out of here. All right, because you really just need to put your foot down, and you need to go, no, this needs to happen by this date. And sometimes people just need you to take control of the situation. All right, and that's part of you. That's not you being a bully or anything. That's just you having self-esteem and you taking control of the situation and you saying, you know what, I'm worth it. I'm worth saying, no, this needs to happen at this time. Because if you don't, all you're going to get is empty promises from people, and people thinking that they can schedule a bunch of other things and put other things before you, and have extra people around that don't belong, and put other people ahead of you. And some of you had parents like that, where everything else was the priority before you. Okay, so you didn't think that your needs were important because your parents worked all the time, or you had other brothers and sisters that they paid more attention to. Okay, so you grew up not realizing that you should assert yourself. Well, you should. Okay, you need to tell your partner, or you need to tell whoever's in your life, no, this needs to be done by a certain time. And I'm not taking no for an answer. Okay, do not let people promise you things. Just be like, no, this needs to be done at a certain time, and it needs to be done in a certain way. All right, and help them. Help them achieve the goal. I mean, don't just be like, no, you're on your own, you have to do all this. No, you need to be helping them do it. I mean, you guys are a team, right? But if they need to do it, I mean, it's on them. But that doesn't mean you can't help them. But they need to know that they cannot stick other people's priorities in there also. They cannot have extra people that they're going to let distract from getting your needs met, okay? Because you are the number one, you are their only priority, okay? So it's not that you're the number one priority, you are their only priority. So they shouldn't have room to have inappropriate people in their lives. They shouldn't have room to screw up. You should be the only person that they care about. All right, so they won't have room to emotionally cheat on you. They won't have room to have inappropriate people in their lives. They won't have room to say, oh, well, I'll just do this one more thing before I meet her need. No, it's going to be about you. Okay, so you have this self-esteem now, and you're not taking no for an answer anymore, and you're being assertive, and you're doing whatever you need to do to be like, no, this needs to be done by a certain time. Some people, they're disorganized, and they need a specific instruction. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily make them bad people, but if you don't specifically tell them what needs to be done, yeah, they can be a bad person. Okay, they'll let you down. All right, and you can't let them get bad on you like that. All right, you need to assert yourself. All right, so you just can't let yourself get played by that like that. All right, not everybody will put you first unless you assert yourself. Okay, because you can't be Mr. Nice Guy. You got to just say, look, this needs to be done by a certain time. All right, and that's the difference between getting your needs met and just being promised things. All right, so and you're going to get mad and you're going to get let down unless you specifically say this needs to be done by a certain date or I'm out of here. And that's too bad you have to be that way. But I've learned the hard way throughout my whole life. If I don't assert myself and go, look, I need this done by a certain time, I'm going to get let down. All right, so that's just kind of the way it works. Unfortunately, but that's kind of just how life works. So that's the way the world is. Sometimes you have to be very assertive, but that's how you get your needs met, and that's how things get done around here. And you just have to stay on someone and say, look, this is, and they'll thank you for it. So that's what I have to say about that. And this is Juliana Angel, your Dark Mass Diva, and I love you all, otherworldies. And you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.